Hello and welcome back to my walkthrough to Crash Bandicoot 2 here on the Crash Bandicoot Sane Trilogy for PlayStation 4. In the last episode we completed Warp Room 2. Completed levels 5 to 10, got lots and lots of gems and crystals, and now we are here in Warp Room 3, and we should be able to finish off Warp Room 2, I believe, by finally completing Air Crash, much like how in Warp Room 2 we actually finished off Warp Room 1 by getting the last gem in Snow Go. We can actually get the last gem in Air Crash. And aside from that, we've got 2 secret exits, we've got a bunch of gems to collect, 5 more crystals, and a big boss. So it's going to be a very busy episode, and our first level is here, Plant Food. Another swamp bayou sort of type level, another one with like the jet ski and stuff like that, so much like Air Crash. Again, has 2 gems. We have the yellow gem here, and the yellow gem is all about speed, much like we had the gem in Air Crash for essentially completing this level as fast as possible. We will have one here on Plant Food as well, where after a certain point in the level, I believe essentially the first checkpoint, we will get a timer starting counting down. And thankfully it doesn't matter how slow you sort of take the start of this level, if I remember correctly. But essentially, once we get to the jet ski, we're going to start getting a countdown. That countdown is going to... there you go. So 1 minute 9 to finish the level. That's not too bad. We'll start to see a lot more sort of relatively complicated obstacles. Obviously, you know, we now have these mines combined with the whirlpools and some nitros, just for some added danger. We obviously won't hit the checkpoint because doing so means that we negate our run, and because we haven't hit all the boxes, we can't even get the box gem, so far better just to skip all of those. So we start seeing a common theme throughout this level is actually seeing these sort of these plants on these pedestals that can essentially hit you. And the whole point is that you know, you've got to dash by them before they hit you while you're on the jet ski. It's very difficult to do. This last one used to be really, really difficult, but they seem to have made it a lot easier right at the end there, because he doesn't spawn nearly as fast. Normally he would be there like, you know, a long time, and essentially, you know, normally he would just be waiting for you there, and he would be so difficult to get by. But it looks like there we can actually very quickly get through and avoid you battling that guy, or you know, needing to avoid that guy at all. So you notice I death abused there, just for speed essentially. We don't want to go through the whole warp room entering, exiting process. It's a lot faster just to die, restart from the start of the level, and now we can go for our box gem. The box gem on this level is far less complicated than it has been on like Air Crash, other levels like that. It is pretty much just a standard sort of collect, you know, hit all the boxes. There isn't really anything too bad about it. And even the bonus isn't too bad, if I remember correctly, as we very slimly avoid that. We see quite a few nitros, but we did see the green exclamation point box right at the end, so we know where that is as well. And thankfully, you know, we can use a lot of the platforms that the game provides us to actually destroy a lot of the plants to make the level a lot easier. So you sort of have this payoff between, you know, waiting for the plants to actually that's just a lot of fruit. But yeah, you sort of have this payoff between the speed, certainly on like time trials and stuff like that, we'll be wanting to go by those plants rather than actually battling them, whereas you know, in these slower runs we can actually afford to just very easily, you know, take out those plants from a much safer position. So we'll just grab that one fruit, because otherwise it will annoy me. So we got a nice 12 boxes there. That takes us to 23 of 53. We have everything back here. Just make sure those TNTs blew up. Occasionally the TNTs, I don't know if it carried on actually into this game. Just occasionally like the TNTs wouldn't count if you blew them up or something. Anyway, so unfortunately we can't do anything about these plants. These guys will just remain an absolute pain to us. It's very difficult to actually... well, I don't know the way to actually avoid them. I just hit the nitros, it seems. But these guys, all of these plants we can take out nice and easily with the help of these platforms. And then we just have that last guy at the end there to worry about. So that takes us to 38 of 58. We know that there are a bunch of nitros in the level, so looking pretty good, looking pretty good. 41, 43. There are 4 nitros just there, so that should be 53 out of 53. There we go. So 2 gems, crystal, pretty much a damn good run. Very happy with that. And that is plant food done. So yeah, so that the only really difficult thing about, like, the only supposedly difficult thing I would say is the gold, the yellow gem there. But it does seem they've made that easier, just because that last piranha plant on the platform in the middle is nowhere near as much of a threat as he was back in the PS1 days. Okay, because we have an Aku, so essentially there are 2 levels here where our Akus will mean nothing in terms of when we take them in. And that'll be obviously Bear Down and Unbearable, being Chase and Polar Bear levels respectively. So if we have an Aku, we'll probably want to use them on either Suor later, as we are now, or we'll use it on Road to Ruin, which is the 4th level in this warp room, and is the Ruin theme levels are some of my favourite levels. They have some of the best music. Not to say that any of the music in this game is bad, like, it's all absolutely amazing, but I love the Ruin music so much. Legit on my iPod. So these guys always seem to have a much longer range than you'd think they would, and they also do, they sort of get out of their animations much faster. So we actually use the guy to spin those boxes, which is handy in a way, because those boxes can be a pain. Nope. Ah, that's a pain. The platforms do sink, but it does take a while for them to sink. So, the reason we obviously want to do plant food first is because the gold gem is, the yellow gem, I should say, is required in order to proceed to get the gem here on Suor later. Ah! I just need to stay on this one. I'm jumping to try and reset the time when it falls down, because as you can see, this one is entirely continual electric. And I, again, death abuse there because essentially it makes far more sense on this level, especially just because the yellow gem route will actually dump us way back, way further along the level. And we will miss a ton of boxes. We might even miss the crystal. Obviously things that we don't want to do. Damn. I hate this guy. Yes. Why am I not killing him? Nah, that's why I was worried, because I was just like, that little rat after is just awaiting my my arrival there. There we go, lovely. So obviously the rats have spikes on them, on the sides, as you can see, so they can only be killed if, with jumps. You can't kill them with spins or slides. Whereas the little cleaner bots, they can be killed with... Ah, you're kidding me. I definitely jumped. Thankfully we're just slightly faster than them. Ah, I'm just being clumsy now, just being clumsy. Come on, that was really lazy, really lazy. There we go, much better. again, just working on the one for food and stuff like that, just because there is another trophy in this game for getting 90 to 99 lives. So I think it definitely makes sense that we, you know, just pay attention to that for a little while. I was a little worried I was going to hit like the tail of one of those rats again. It was going to kill me, but there we go. Okay, so the sooner or later bonus. Nothing too much to be worried about. Obviously, we have a load of nitros. Lovely. We can head up here, drop down. Okay, lovely. So that gives us to this point. We can grab ourselves an Aku and begin this next section. So essentially, you obviously have these super fast spinning fan blades. We use the enemy to actually break the fan blades individually, and then you break all three, and then obviously they can't hurt you anymore. The way these platforms wobble in the water is really... it just feels really scary. It just always feels like you're going to fall. Now, I'm pretty sure once you get it down to even just 2 blades, you can actually sort of risk a jump through the middle and you'll probably make it. Here, if you slide those enemies into there, you'll actually clear a large chunk of these guys. So again, there are no boxes down the gold gem route, so we don't need to worry about that so much. We're going to come down here just to hit the exclamation point box, which means that we can now head back down. Head down this path. Another one of these guys. Shot. And now we get a chance to get invincible through this section, which is always nice. You can just see the speed that Crash moves when he's invincible. We should be able to get pretty much to the end of the level. We can't get to the end of the level, that's annoying. But there we go, lovely. 57 out of 57 gives us both the clear gems for this level. We have double Aku, which means we will definitely do Road to Ruin next. It probably doesn't matter, because if I remember correctly, Road to Ruin has a death route that we have to do anyway, so and we cannot get the normal gem on Road to Ruin. Not yet, because it is yet another level with a secret entrance. Much like Snowgo and Air Crash. Indeed, this is the final true level, as in level in the first 5 warp rooms that has a secret entrance. And we're going to get a nice cutscene here, I think with Coco.
Crash, thank goodness! I hacked into Cortex's computer and found detailed schematics for an improved Cortex vortex and a suspicious-looking space station. I'm not sure, but Cortex might be trying to...
So there you go. So obviously we know from the opening cutscene that Cortex isn't exactly up to any good, and now we see that Coco is sort of trying to inform Crash. Crash is obviously just Crash, so, you know, dopey and doesn't really know what's going on, I think. But there we go. Okay, so there is a death route here. The death route is not too bad, and even if we miss it, then we have to do this level again. As you can see, there is the secret exit. It comes out that way. You used to be able to get it in the PS1 version. It doesn't look like we definitely can with this version. Feature of this level are these sort of monkey heads that will turn to sort of see, you know, sort of follow you. There are also variants which spout fire, because why not? Okay, so we do have invincibility. Just got to be careful with it. Make sure I don't do anything stupid. Always capable of doing something stupid. So here's the death route, which we will do. We might as well. What happens up there? Sometimes at the top of these big sort of metallic boxes. Obviously, the metal bounce crate is used because they don't want you to have a box inside the bonus route. So you can notice that I can spin away those logs that the monkeys are throwing at me. I did not know that you could do that for so long, and that area becomes so much easier once you know you can do that. It's really not easy when you don't. So there you go. You can spin the logs, make life easy for yourself. It makes this section a lot easier too, where we're going to start getting platforms that actually fall away. These sort of platforms, these leaning platforms, are an absolute pain. There are worse versions in the other Ruin level, which is called Ruination. We'll see that in World 4. But yeah, no, they could be an absolute pain. Some simple jumps. There's our gem. Well, we're here. We might as well try. I do not know. As you can see, the gem route is very close to the actual main path, so that's something to be aware of. Why are we going backwards? Well, we need to in order to actually get the crystal. I'm merely wondering where on earth the crystal is. The crystal is just there. So you see those the lizard enemies? They're really interesting. They've sort of got this razor sharp sort of spike going through their neck. The idea is essentially you can only kill those enemies with a slide. Which I think is a really nice touch. We will do the bonus anyway. I mean, there's so much to do in this episode that maybe we shouldn't just because of time, but why not? Hopefully give ourselves some more lives and stuff like that. So, it's this bonus. You go back and forth between these exclamation point boxes to start off with. Sort of reminiscent of that bit in one of the Crash 1 levels where you have, I think it's Road to Nowhere where we did something like that. It was a little bit more complicated. I always like the fact that in Crash 2, the fact that all the bonus themes and all the secret route themes are variations on the level's music itself, whereas in Crash 3 they have a homogenized version for, I think, the bonuses. I think the bonuses all have the same music. So we've got a monkey here that's holding a knife, I think. Don't exactly know why he hurts us when we hit him, but he does. So yeah, we'll jump under him. As you can see, we cannot get that because we need to come in through our secret entrance, which we will get in the next episode. But thankfully we do get the crystal. That's the one thing that obviously that secret gem route is annoying for. You have to go back to get the crystal. But thankfully the secret entrance obviously leads us out right at the start of the level, so we don't need to do any backtracking, which is obviously a blessing. There are certainly other levels. I mean, obviously we've had levels like the pits where we've had to do sort of brief backtracking. There's a far more egregious example of backtracking later on when we do what's the level called? When we do Digging It, which is level 17, I believe. So in the 4th warp room. So now we have our second polar bear level. There are 3 in the game, 2 in the main levels and 1 secret one. I think we do the secret one in this game. But this is the first of 2 levels in this warp room which have a secret exit, which means more levels for us to do afterwards. But naturally, obviously, we could... Oh, I love this polar, so cute. So, the level is essentially designed around going normal pace. So, if you want to be in sync with everything, just stick at normal pace. Obviously, when it comes to the relic runs, we'll have to up our speed and use the dash. I'm surprised that we didn't actually make that, I'll be honest, but there we go. Trying to keep those lives up, man! Only in the 60s. Oh, we're doing okay for lives. But yeah, no, if you do excessive boosting, you'll end up sort of out of sync with various, things that are going on in the level. And that can sort of make things a lot harder for yourself. As we'll get our checkpoint. Lovely. So we meet these guys who will raise and lower these sort of big horizontal blocks or something or other, metal, ice. I think it's definitely metal in the originals. It's slightly harder to sort of tell. I wonder if, similar to like Pura, whether polar dashing through things can actually break stuff. Because when we get to the tiger levels in Crash 3, if you use the dash, you can actually break through certain obstacles, which is quite cool. Lovely. Okay, lovely. Hit that, really nice. That should be virtually everything. Yep, that is definitely everything, there we go. We'll dash, because why not? So, now what we can do, as you can see, there are some mysterious platforms down below us, and collecting said mysterious platforms is exactly what, or travelling on those mysterious platforms is exactly what we're going to do. Travel to here, and we have our secret exit. This is probably the most obvious secret exit, the most, noticeable one, I guess. The Air Crash one is also quite sort of like, why is there just this random platform? It doesn't even have an enemy on it. That's another sort of thing. There are a few less obvious ones. Or the other one. I suppose this is only the second secret exit we found, so yeah. So we'll get our crystal and gem from Bear Down, and now we'll head back into Air Crash, where we can get our actual clear gem. So this time we don't need to do a death platform route, because the death platform route only contains nitros. And if I remember correctly, this section of the level contains the green nitro box and everything else. As much as the life getting is tempting, it's also probably murder. So I think I'll just take the Wumpa Fruit. It's already being nice to us with lots of nitros and stuff. Sort of showing you exactly what these sort of death routes are all about. So we're going to try and hopefully use the sort of the pull of the whirlpool to our effect here. Nah! I didn't mean to go that far back. It seems slightly tetchier than maybe it was on the PS1. But that might just be me being, me complaining about controls. Finding an excuse as opposed to the fact that I'm just terrible right now. Anyway, so we'll come back over here. That's not what we wanted. There we go. And there we go, lovely. So we'll hit that. That gives us 47 boxes already. And now this should warp us to the very start of the level. So there aren't any boxes behind us. We can just approach the level anew and hopefully complete it, because I mean, it's a pretty simple level. We've already, done it multiple times now, actually. We have to do it. We've had to do it for the crystal. We had to do it fast for the secret gem, and we've also had to do it for the secret exit, so I can't remember if we got crystal and secret gem in the same run. I hope we did, but probably did not. I only say I hope we did just because it makes more sense. But there we go. So we'll just zip through there. Nice. Grab our checkpoint, our bonus platform. I used to have a little challenge with the PS1 one, which is just to sort of essentially just do single jumps across each one. I mean, all we do is lose an Aku. Shouldn't make too much difference in this level. And the next level, obviously, I mentioned before that we can't take Akus. into the levels where Crash gets chased, so that doesn't really matter. There's this one. Good. All the one for fruit, even get the life. Takes us up to a nice 67 lives, so 2/3 of the way to 100. But we'll probably start dying a lot more, so yeah. So that sort of, this outline approach is essentially what that means is that you did not die before reaching this point, and therefore you cannot take the bonus route. Obviously, we don't need to take the bonus route. The bonus route contained nothing but nitros and death for us, so we do not need to worry about that. What we do need to worry about, I think, is making this slight jump. And we get close, but no cigar. I think I also now need to break these boxes again. I do. Well remembered. Me. Nope. Ah, you're kidding. Oh well. A very sad explosion for Crash there. As we get an Aku, I'm assuming that's because we died lots of times the last time we actually tried to make this jump as well. Which is really useful in an area where the only reason I'm dying is because I'm drowning. But now we can land back on here. Completely forgot about the second thingy underneath there. There we go. So that gives us 101, and that, there we go, 102 out of 102 boxes. Air Crash is now 100% complete. And we only have, well, 2 more levels, well, 3 if we include the boss of this episode. We have Unbearable, we have the secret level that we get from completing Unbearable, and we have the boss, which is my personal favourite boss of the 5. Mainly because I think he's the one that provides, I guess, the most enjoyable challenge in some way. It's like half a puzzle thing. So we get a trophy as well. I mentioned, forgot that actually, we got a trophy for getting, that secret exit on Bear Down. That was island hopping, and we just got a trophy there for, I think, probably 21 gems, called One Man's Trash. We'll get another trophy once we get the secret exit here on Unbearable, because it seems like each secret exit is associated with a trophy. I like the hint here, because Unbearable actually has two secrets, essentially. It has one secret area where there's all the boxes, which allows us to get the gem, and then it has the second secret area, which is the secret exit, which allows us to get to a new level. So, rather than being chased by a boulder, we're now being chased by this ginormous, terrifying polar bear. And we can actually take an Aku into this level, which I find really surprising, because normally you can't. I'm sure you usually can't take an Aku into this level. The idea is that I think that certain enemies, maybe if you were to run backwards, you could sort of use the Aku to get, like, I guess, behind the polar bear. I think that's sort of what the idea is, or the reason why they usually wouldn't allow it. But for some reason, we are being allowed, which is fine by me. We'll dodge those. Avoid the lizards. Okay, so here's the key thing. So, you might notice that there was that little line there about the polar bear opens a secret passage. Here it is. You hit the checkpoint, obviously, because we need to hit the checkpoint, but you notice that these 3 blocks aren't destroyed. That's meant to be a little hint for you to travel down to this area. which is an entirely secret area with some very unique enemies. These sort of guys with the big hunting guns that shoot very slow projectiles. I suppose aside from the scientists, yeah, we do see that loads of humanoid enemies don't like Crash, it seems. So a lot of the challenges in this area are sort of based around different enemies getting in your way of your jumping over those big bullets from the rifles, and they're really hard to see actually. That sort of could be, that could be shown better. Ah, you're kidding me. And we could have had invincibility, and that would have made this whole section really easy. So, still, 2 Akus is more than enough, I'm pretty sure, for this section. You see, we meet a new enemy actually here. We meet an armored armadillo enemy, essentially. He's down there. We cannot kill him, if I remember correctly. Spinning him, like, if I remember correctly, if you spin him, he takes no damage, and if you jump on him, he also takes no damage. So he's a bit of a pain. So unfortunately, we're sort of out of sync with the bullets here. There we go. Yeah. I could see that happening from a mile off, but there we go. No! Oh, that was a terrible, terrible jump. But there we go. Anyway, you get the idea of this section. Once more, we must get everything. So obviously, the important thing to remember here is that one, those 2 life boxes up there in the original game, they were really hard to spot, so you could very easily miss them, which was always mean. Come on, get into a nice way. I can actually overtake you. Oh, you're kidding me! This section isn't, like, it should have been enough. I'm annoyed that we died earlier, essentially, more than anything else. That was a terrible, terrible jump that I tried to do there. Or maybe you can kill them from behind. No, you can't. Yeah, see? So I got pushed backwards off that guy. I thought that's what happened, but it almost looked like the rear was sort of like still armadillo as opposed to like the metal armor. But alas, not the case. That's okay. There we go, that's better. Oh, you're kidding me. Ah! I think I need to slide more. There we go, much better. Go, run. There we go, lovely. So this is a mini rat pit, or mole pit. Sort of very random that they sort of suddenly put that there. But then you want to get across. Lovely, we get a second Aku, which is always like, you know, heaven in these levels. At this point, I think you need to duck. There we go, lovely. Oh, we get across. Fortunate. So that's going to break through there. Probably shouldn't have broken the... now I say it, you probably shouldn't break that checkpoint. Now you've got to get through the rest of this section without dying. But obviously we have the bonus that actually, if I remember correctly, they still act as checkpoints, much like they did in Crash 1, or sorry, in the remake here of Crash 1. So if that's the case, then yeah, we don't need to worry. So there we go, we get across there, nice and simple. We can hit the green exclamation point box for a few more boxes. And now we get to the last, well, the couple last bits of chase sequence here. As we now need to be very careful as to, like, where we break open these, those big gates, essentially. Thankfully, the boxes that the polar bear breaks do count towards our counter, which is really good. So we get through, lovely. And now, the best bit of this level. You're riding on a polar bear, being chased by another polar bear. What more could you want from a Crash level? So, stay to one side to avoid the TNTs, then we're going to need to do some zigzagging through some electrical gates. This used to be absolute carnage on the PS1, like, Polar would control, that's so easy. That's really easy to do now. It used to be absolute awful to control back on the PlayStation 1. Just because the polar bear used to jank side to side really badly. But there we go. We collect our gem on Unbearable, and now for the secret exit, because Polar, I mean, what happened to Polar? Polar's still here, and he even gives us a secret level. And that does give us the trophy I mentioned, No Bear Left Behind, which is quite cute. And what does this secret exit give to us? It gives us a new level, a secret level in the warp room, and that level is Totally Bare, I believe. Yes, Totally Bare. So there are a couple of, levels, essentially level 26 and level 27. One being Totally Bare, the other one is Totally Fly. So we're actually going to get a cutscene here with Cortex.
Crash, my boy, you are more than halfway there. But I'm sure you've noticed that things are getting harder. The last 10 crystals will be the hardest to gather, and our enemies will be sending their strongest forces to thwart you. I'll contact you again when you have completed the next warp room.
So there we go, Totally Bare here, Totally Fly is the other unique level. There's the entrance to Road to Ruin that we don't currently have. So Totally Bare, what is unique about this level? Well, in Totally Bare, it is all dark, essentially, and you have very limited visibility, and it makes for a really interesting little level. I see that we actually have the, that would make sense to actually have the timer immediately available. So again, we're going to take this relatively normal speed. There are certain points in this level where you do need to use the boost jump. Namely to get those boxes, to make that jump there, for example. So we'll zigzag to avoid the killer whales. Stay left, stay right. Stay right again. So we've got another jump, and then what I do is you want to stay there because you can go behind essentially the totem enemy there and actually collect that box hidden behind him really easily. That was a bit of a mistake, oddly enough. So jump over you, go under you, probably jump over the next one. I love it I love the fact that crashes end up on Polar's head. That's hilarious. Oh, there's so many. I love the death animations in this. How can you not love the death animations in this game? They're great. So you do need to boost jump there in order to get over the gap. We hit our next checkpoint. We must be getting close to the end, I want to say. Under, because of lovely. There we go. Hit that. Need to jump over there. And that is Totally Bare done. That was not too bad at all. Remember that level being a little bit harder. But there we go, 38 out of 38 boxes. We get our gem. So you'll notice that those levels, Totally Bear, Totally Fly, because they're secret levels, they don't have the crystals that you obviously need to progress with the story, but they do have gems, and you need the gems in order to get all the percent, in order to get full percent, along with all the secret exits as well. So even if you did manage to glitch the Snow Go red gem, even in the original game, you'd still actually need to unlock the secret exit in order to get full percentage. So that is that. We can now head up. Why would it be up? I mean, I appreciate the fact that obviously it's now part of the sort of the system, because I believe if you did that in the original game, you would just, if you completed Totally Bear, it would just take you back out of Unbearable. But yeah, that's weird that it's like below, because I always thought that was like the top of Cortex's castle, so this is like even higher. But anyway, no need to worry, we now have Tiny Tiger, and this is such a great boss. I love this boss. He doesn't pay attention to his surroundings. First introduction to Tiny. You gotta love Tiny. I mean, he lives up to his name so well. Oh, he looks great. The music to this boss is amazing. So essentially, it's pretty simple. Essentially, you need to lure him onto platforms that are going to sink. And then, so if you are successful in luring him onto a platform that will sink, you then need to avoid the successive platforms that will then sink after them. As you can see, he can jump diagonally, and will do if you get too far ahead of him. Oh, I love this music. It's so good. Okay, so the last one, essentially, you need to lure him onto a lone platform, and then all but one of the remaining platforms will disappear. And thankfully, we got pretty lucky there. We get another trophy for Tiny Trek to defeat Tiny Tiger there. And that is Warp Room 3, done and dusted, 100% pretty much. All we've got to do now is get the final two, one of the final two, I don't know exactly which of the, because both of the next two secret exits are in Warp Room 4, so the next Warp Room. I don't know which. I think the first one leads to Road to Ruin and the second one leads to Totally Fly, in terms of the order that we'll do them, but we'll see. But there we go. Warp Room number 4. We do not have a Cortex cutscene. He was going to stick by his word. So that is going to be it for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you will join me on the next episode where we take on Hanging Out, Digging It, Cold Hard Crash, what a level, Ruination, and Behaving. Or Be-Having. It's definitely behaving. So there we go. Hope you have enjoyed this episode. Hope you'll join me on the next.